Welcome to Shelf Life, the monthly series where I look back at games I covered about half a year ago and let you know if they're still in my collection. And November of 2024 was another crazy month with me covering just tons of games. So let's get right to it and see which of them had shelf life. So first, for the crowdfunding side, we have Worldspanner Factions. This is the new implementation of the Duel of Ages system, and I really enjoyed Duel of Ages going back years. I found this newest version to be the most exciting one, so this is definitely one that I hope they send me a review copy of when everything's done. I would like to dig into this and teach it to my kids as well, with all the goofy time-spanning mixes of heroes and items and all that stuff. It's a fun tactical skirmish game. So that's Worldspanner Factions. Next is Nemesis Retaliation, the third game in the Nemesis series from Awaken Realms. And this one is another victim of my recent kind of decision, with Awaken Realms really seeming to double down on AI-generated art in ways that I don't find ethically sound. That I'm probably not going to cover this one, because I think it's another one that's going to use a bunch of AI art based on their current practices, which sucks because I did love this one. So if you don't care about the AI art thing, I definitely would say suggest checking it out. I think it's very tense. It's my favorite of the Nemesis series. Definitely more action-packed, more in the vein of Aliens, the second movie. So yeah, that's a Nemesis Retaliation, and probably going to be a pass for me just because of the AI thing. And then finally, the last crowdfunding game for this month was Bullet Universe, which included two expansions, Bullet Palette and Bullet Paw, I think were the two. And this one, as you all can imagine, Bullet being one of my favorite games of all time, is absolutely a high priority for me. They're supposed to be sending me a copy whenever it's done, so I am anxiously waiting for that. All I got to play were some print and play versions of some of the bosses from the two sets. I've not played with any of the heroes yet, but what I saw looked awesome, and I am super excited to play more of Bullet Universe, Palette, and Paw. So that one's definitely a full-on interest for me in the crowdfunding sector. Now getting to our released games, I've got Atlantic Chase versus Kinfire Delve in our first duel. Talking about Atlantic Chase, this is a 1v1 World War II game with this really interesting movement system where you're laying out these little like tracks of tokens to show where your boats might be. It also has a really well done solo mode that has a lot of different options, although I did find it a little bit onerous to run, and this is not the kind of game that I'm going to get 1v1 play happening frequently. So it was a call for me, but that's nothing against the game's design. I think it is great for those war fans. And then it's versus Kinfire Delve, which is one of my favorite games recently. This is a solo or cooperative card-based game where you're delving down into these dungeons with really interesting card play, lots of cooperation between players. I like this one solo, but I love it co-op. I covered the one that I'm talking about here 6 or 7 months ago was the first set, but now I've also covered the second set, and I think they're sending me a copy of the third set soon. I'm all in for this series. I think the card play and co-op is awesome. I love the variety in characters. So that's Kinfire Delve. Definitely winning out over Atlantic Chase for my taste. The next matchup is 3,000 Scoundrels versus Unmatched Adventures, the co-op mode for Unmatched. For 3,000 Scoundrels, this is a competitive Euro with a solo mode if you get the expansion. It's got sort of card construction-ish stuff, putting cards, multiple cards into one sleeve, sort of akin to a John D. Clare design. I thought it was fine. Not too memorable, if I'm being completely honest. I think there was like blind bluffing or bidding or something, but it had some cool combos in the cards. It had some interesting choices with the initiative cards or whatever you do for your activations. And I will say I thought the solo was well done. It had a variety of different like solo bots you could go against, each of which would focus on different things. So solid game if you like a Euro, not like topping any of my lists and not a keep for me personally, but it was pretty good. That's 3,000 Scoundrels. And it's versus Unmatched Adventures, which takes the 1v1 Unmatched tactical skirmish game that's card-based and brings it into a solo co-op space. And I think this is really cool that they did this. I love, I've made unofficial solo variants for Exceed and BattleCon and Sakura Arms and like other games sort of akin to this. So it's great that they're doing it here. I think they achieve some things well. I think other things are deeply, deeply flawed with the solo co-op system. So I didn't personally love it. And also the big thing is I just don't like Unmatched that much to begin with. All those other games I named, I would drastically rather play than this one. But that's just my taste. I know many people like Unmatched a ton. It's one of their favorite games. So yeah, this one is definitely not a keep for me. I thought it was fine, but a bit flawed. And I guess that means neither of them is a keep. Sorry, Unmatched Adventures and 3,000 Scoundrels. Our next matchup is the clash of the Titan and the Tiny. This is Skoventyr versus Voidfall. Talking about Skoventyr first, this is from Impatience, who does all the Oniverse games, but this one is not one of those. But I did love this. This one has really interesting card play. It actually works pretty well, even though you're kind of just combining all the same stuff together. It works really well co-op and solo. I find the card play choices really interesting and tense. The varied powers of the cards, the choice of discarding them and permanently taking them out of the deck versus using them for other things. I just think it's really great for a quick, light little game, and the modular aspects are nice too. So Skoventyr is a keep for me, which I guess means Voidfall is a call. And yeah, not too surprising. I do love Voidfall. I think it's a fabulous design. But it is a huge, long game with so much stuff to set up. The solo mode does work well, but co-op is just like way too big for me to ever really want to play. Competitive, I can't really see getting to the table either. So again, nothing against the design. This is just my taste, my time. Something tiny like Skoventyr that I can easily play with my kids is definitely going to stick around much easier than something giant like Voidfall. Getting almost to the end, I covered a lot of games in this month. We have the Art Project versus Resident Evil 1, the board game. So the Art Project is a crisis management game. I really like the variety in maps and how things kind of played out. It also has nice escalation and challenge, good cooperation between players. There were a lot of random elements, though, with the dice combat. The game could be a little bit frustrating sometimes. It could end a little bit more suddenly than I prefer. So, yeah, and also crisis management is not my favorite type of game. So this is really, again, about my taste, not about any of you. But the Art Project was a call. Comparing it to Resident Evil 1, the board game, I really like this system. I liked it when I played it in Resident Evil 3, which came first. I know that's kind of weird chronologically. But Resident Evil 1 is the best version of this system that I've seen. First of all, I love the game it's based on, but also it's got more exploration and tension in the game as you're kind of adding rooms and tiles to the board, but it's still got the really fun tension and like kind of mix of combat, but also trying to run away and avoid zombies, which is key to the video games and is key to the experience here, and I think they pulled it off really well. Great video game adaptation. That is Resident Evil 1, and it is a keep over the Art Project. And our last matchup for the month is Role Player Adventures, the new expansion, which was Gulpax's Secret, versus Monster Hunter World. And going to Role Player Adventures, this remains one of my favorite narrative experiences in board gaming. And with this release, they have the updated rules that make it a little bit easier make the game not so easy and make it a little bit tougher to win challenges and stuff, which is my one complaint of the original release. So yeah, I am fully on board with this one. I have, unfortunately, not had time to play the full new campaign, but I plan to, so it's definitely sticking around. I'm not going to let this one go until I've seen what the story has to offer, which means I guess Monster Hunter World is a call. And I do want to give this game some credit. It is very approachable for a boss battler. It's very quick to set up compared to things like Oathsworn and Primal and all those kind of things that are a lot more involved. This one I was easily able to like show my kids and teach them. That being said, though, it's not my favorite system. The story's kind of ho-hum. The crafting, I didn't find that interesting personally. But I think the card play and the way the monsters activate is pretty cool. It's got a lot of the DNA of the Steamforged Games Dark Soul game, but I think might be an improvement on it. So yeah, I think this is fine. Not my favorite boss battler by any means, and it was a call for me. But I think Monster Hunter World is a pretty solid system, and I'm glad they're continuing with it. So not a bad month. 4 games kept out of the big haul, although I guess one of them, Role Player, is more of an expansion. But let's get to the contest results and see how well people predicted my choices.
And here we go, and my audio might feel a little different because I'm recording this after I received my new mic. All the other stuff was recorded before. Getting to Group 1, Kinfire Delve was the most confident vote of the contest. 77% of you thought I would keep that. Both Called came in second with 21%. And Atlantic Chase, not too many of you were very confident there. Only 2% of you thought I would keep it. Group 2 had Both Called, which is the correct answer, as 52%. Unmatched Adventures was a pretty big spoiler, with 43% thinking I would keep that. And 3,000 Scoundrels, another low number, 5% thinking I would keep that. Going to number 3, Both Called. 52% of you got this one wrong. And then Voidfall, 29%. This one was pretty devastating. Only 19% of you picked Skoventyr correctly. Group 4, nearly done. Both Called again, got the majority vote here, or at least the biggest vote. Resident Evil got only 38%, even though it was the correct choice, and the Art Project got just 12%. And to finish it up, y'all did mostly get this right. Role Player Adventures got 54% as the keeper, then Both Called was 38%, and one more low number, Monster Hunter World got only 8%. And we had a pretty small number of people making it this time. We had 6 people who correctly guessed all of them right. Carl from Purple Moose Games, Gareth Thomas, Chris Weimer, Carlos Arce, Edgar, Ruval Kaba, and Ryan Picklesheimer. I know Ryan's been on here a few times. I think Carl has as well. Gareth and Chris are both Patreon supporters, so they get double the chances. We're going to roll a D8 and see who our big winner is. And here we go. It's a 4, which means, Chris, you are the winner this month, but y'all have another chance next month. Don't forget to click on the link in the video description and enter your guesses. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you next time for more Shelf Life.